podcast is brought to you by Alldus International, supplying your expert AI and digital transformation staffing needs across the US and Europe. Today, you are listening to our AI in Action series, where leading minds in AI from across the world share their story, success, and advice. AI in Action cuts through the hype and explores the true impact of artificial intelligence in our world today.
You're listening to AI in Action. I'm your host, JP Valentine. Our guest today is Nandini Nayar. Nandini is a data scientist at Heartbeat Health. Nandini, welcome to the show.
Thank you. I'm super happy to be here.
Yeah, we're delighted to have you. So, Nandini, let's start with a quick background of yourself. Where you first got started in tech, what's been your journey, some of the roles you've held along the way, taking us up to today at Heartbeat.
So I did my undergrad in computer science at Cornell University, and I went on to do grad school there as well. It was a super research intensive, rigorous grad program. I specialized in AI, and I really covered the breadth of machine learning courses offered at Cornell, honing into specific areas such as computer vision, domain adaptation, video super resolution. My eventual goals, though, were always in applied machine learning in a way that was agnostic to the application. So I got really interested in AutoML and eventually did my thesis in that area of resource allocation, hyperparameter optimization, and also worked with companies like H2O.ai. I was always interested in healthcare, and I always, ranging from working in computational genetics to working with pharma companies on applied ML projects. I did a range of sort of collaborations in the healthcare space, also some entrepreneurship collaborations on campus with the local hospital and the healthcare administration department. So Heartbeat really presented itself as the perfect opportunity to combine my interest and apply machine learning in a healthcare setting and provided me with the perfect sort of resources and data to do that.
Excellent. Nice segue into where you are today. And it's great to hear that you've landed it in a place where you've always had an interest. So let's take a step back for anyone listening who's not familiar with Heartbeat Health. Who are Heartbeat? What do you do? What's the mission of the business? And then we can go into the data science and AI behind the scenes that's making it all work.
Yeah, so Heartbeat's main goal is to optimize the entire heart care journey and really just provide the best heart care that is possible. There's so many things that are missing right now in the way that heart care is administered. It's firstly not accessible and not as data empowered, and that's something that we all know. And I think Heartbeat is going in to really tackle these challenges in a technology empowered and data empowered way. And more specifically focusing on Heartbeat's approach to AI, I think our values in AI are very much that we believe that we have to build AI into the current healthcare system and how things are administered. And so there is a human in the loop. There's an entire way that care is administered in today's world, and building AI outside of it or just purely in a research way does not actually have that impact on ground. And so we really believe in bringing that in to the system, including all the different healthcare providers that are like in our clinic, for example. And I think because of that, we also really believe in explainability of AI, and we are aware of like the rigorous validation that you need when you use AI to make sure that it is doing what it's supposed to do. And whether that's through collaborating with providers and hearing their views, or whether it's through rigorous validation from external data sets, it's really about having it rooted in that validity of belonging to the current system and all the people that belong to it.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think what would help for our listeners who are maybe not as familiar with what the current environment is, if you could just give us some insight into the more traditional cardiac treatment, what it's like for patient journey, and then just how impactful Heartbeat Health can be in transforming from the traditional into where you're trying to get it to.
So currently there are so many issues in the way that heart care is administered. One is just not accessible. So you have to go in person, you wait for an appointment. You are not able to just access a cardiologist from any part of the world on short notice. And that is really something that is easy to fix given today's world. And I think beyond that, there are so many other issues as well, such as the data challenges around it, because in the current system, when a patient walks in to a cardiologist's office, their medical history and their lab reports and all that other data that sort of empowers the provider to actually give them the right care is not accessible. It's usually disconnected. It's lying in like different clinics who we don't have access to. And to bring that in together and build a complete picture of the patient's history is super important. And that's going to really make the difference in empowering the provider to provide the best care.
You are listening to the Alldus podcast. When you're looking to scale your team, or if you are interested in showcasing your company in a future episode, reach out today. Or if you're in the market for a new role, visit our website to view open positions, www.alldus.com.
We do a lot of podcasts on healthcare and healthcare data, and anyone who's listening to this podcast will have heard many examples of just how challenging the problem is that you're trying to solve. Can you give us some insight into what it's like for you and your team on the data science side? Some of the work that you're doing day to day, what it looks like to be part of the team, and the types of projects that you're working on that allows Heartbeat to implement its technology into these clinics and hospitals.
Yes, absolutely. We're really building our data infrastructure in a way that can fuel and exponentially fuel the process of building these models in the future. So it's still our early days, but we do have a full end-to-end pipeline. In terms of data engineering, we have all the nuts and bolts in place. And then some of the things that we have been working on currently are things like claims risk, using claims data to evaluate cardiovascular risk, because claims is a good way of having a snapshot of your medical history. We've looked at a lot of research into echocardiograms and how AI can help there. We've also looked at anomaly detection for vitals, because we do have data on blood pressure and daily sort of metrics, vitals metrics. And these are the space of models that we have been exploring currently alongside building this infrastructure. And I think what's really sort of unique in our situation is that we are directly in the loop with physicians. So that means that we can actually capture, while we're building our data sets, we can actually capture physicians' responses and their labels as to how they would act, which is definitely harder to get access to and is way more valuable when you're trying to administer healthcare in the real world. Because at the end of the day, the provider is the one who really knows, how to navigate this care journey.
It's good to hear that you're able to interact directly with the provider, because it gives you the direct access to your customer base who are using the platform, and allows you to see the impact. Talk to us about your time there, because I know you joined initially straight out of a grad program. You went in on an internship, and you've since migrated up the levels into a data scientist. What has the journey been like for you over the past few years?
It's actually super exciting to be at Heartbeat and to really be right in the center of all the different stakeholders and seeing firsthand what are the challenges and what are, how the industry is evolving and how to work with it. And yeah, it's been great. There's been a lot of changes. Like I said, we've been working towards this data pipeline and getting these data sets. We have access to a rich, diverse sort of range of data sets, including whether it's image, clinical, tabular data sets, claims data sets, even just user behavior through our virtual platform, which is our app. And so I think we have access to all these data sets, and we actually started a cardiology AI seminar, which is something that is super exciting as well, where we bring physicians, researchers, and even product and engineer people into the same room, and we have conversations on different research. We get everybody's views on it and really try to dissect where can AI really add value from a product focused point of view. And so that's been really great and very helpful. And I think increasingly, we're also, with our interactions with payers, I think we're able to really understand where the space should be headed and how we can really add the most value.
Yeah, and you've just touched on that, where this space is headed. Can you give us some insight into what the journey is going to look like over the next few years for Heartbeat? What is the larger mission? And if you guys can continue to have the level of success that you've been having, where do you see Heartbeat in the healthcare sphere in the next 2 or 3 years?
Yeah, for sure. So I think there are a lot of things that are happening simultaneously in order to AI to really provide the full force of value that it can in the healthcare world. And I think Heartbeat is very much riding that wave in terms of exploring all the data infrastructure possibilities, learning how to build a story around combining all these data models and how to really present that information in an actionable way to caregivers. And I think taking all of this into account and having access to the really rich resources, AI resources that we have, and papers that specialize in sort of computer vision and deep learning in this space, I think we're actually looking to optimize care in a way that heart care does not have to reach the stage that it does. You should be able to intercept and prevent exacerbation for heart care patients way before they currently do. And I think that will really be something we're able to, accomplish along with while we're building our data infrastructure and while we're getting all this information, really rich data sets from our providers.
Exciting, super exciting. Nandini, thank you so much for coming on today, talking to us. We appreciate you sharing the overview of Heartbeat, giving us some insight into the impact that it's going to have, will continue to have on healthcare. And yeah, given your perspective on what it's like to be part of the team and the journey, super exciting. We wish you and your team all the best. Thank you again for coming on.
Thank you, John. It's my pleasure to be here.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the Alldus podcast. If you enjoyed today's episode, don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review. We are available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and any Android podcast of choice. You can also head over to our website, www.alldus.com, to listen to more podcasts, view our open roles, and stay up to date with industry news. Thanks for listening, and stay tuned for more great episodes coming very soon.